Hi guys, it's Kelly Latavola here, and today we are going to be making an interactive card. We are using the Friends for All Season Fall set and the circle guys. So the idea is that it's going to be almost like a puzzle, and you have to turn the circles to line up the picture to see the picture and read the message. So I'm starting with 4 circles. 2 of them are going to be the front and the base. So they're going to be the same exact size. I cut 2 other circles. You're more than welcome to do as many layers as you want, but each individual layer has to be stamped. So I felt like this was more than enough. This was as adventurous as I was going to be. We're going to start with the back of the card. Anytime you're making a shaped card, you usually have to build your own card base because they don't come in shapes. So here I'm just scoring a line right at about the 1/2 inch mark. And then I'm just going to fold that over, score it with my bone folder so that it's good. I know I'm going to have a good hinge for my card. Line up that other circle, make sure everything matches up, and that's how the card will open. Here I'm laying the other layers of circles on top of the base, and then I'm tracing a circle. And this is so when I'm doing my stamping and I keep having to remove those circles, it'll be super easy for me to line them up, and I won't have to worry about, am I putting it in the same exact spot? I'm also going to go ahead and find the center, because when I first started this card, I had envisioned the brad being in the center of all of those. I ended up changing that just a little bit because I felt like it worked better for the design of the card to be on top of the eye and wishes. So here I'm using the Mini Misty. This is the best way I've found to do any sort of multiple stamping. You can also use a stamp positioner. The Stamp-A-Magic, that's what it's called, is the one that I had before I had the Misty or the Mini Misty. But here you can stamp multiple stamps at a time. So I lay them all out, and I forgot to put my magnet down, so then I had to adjust my circle one more time. It's like that sometimes. Later on, when we get to the smaller circle, the magnet can't be that close to all of the stamps. So I had to use washi tape, which was no big deal. I'm using Intense Black ink from Simon Says Stamp because it is Copic safe, and I'm going to stamp the first impression down on the circle. Then I'm going to put my other circle on top of that, line up those lines that I drew to the center, and then for some reason, I'm not really sure why, oh no, that's not this one. It's the next one. Stand by for that. No, it is this one. I didn't feel like it was lined up. I don't know why, because circles are round, which means they are the same on all sides. And so I just didn't feel like it was lining up correctly. I don't know. So I just swirled it around before I stamped it. So we're going to stamp it a second time. And this time you'll see as you keep stamping, because it's so many impressions, on the base one, the largest circle, that stamping gets very thick. The line does, because you're continually putting ink over it. I didn't worry about this because I knew I was going to fix it with a pen. I don't really know of a way that you could avoid doing it unless you wanted to try to clean off that area of the stamp in between stampings. I just don't think it's necessary. Plus, I mean, with all the spinning fun that's going on, I don't think anybody's really going to be paying attention to it anyway. I wanted to add the balloons that come in this cute little set because birthday wishes, can't have birthday wishes without balloons. So I cut a mask from Full Stick Post-it Note, and I'm just going to put that down over all of the bears. And instead of working from the largest circle to the smallest like I did before, it was just easier to work from the smallest and go back. So I'm going to stamp the balloons, and then I'm going to remove a circle instead of add one, and then I'll just go all the way back down through until everything is stamped. Once everything is stamped, you're going to want to erase your lines before you do your Copic coloring. However, I was concerned that I would not be able to line them up on the main circle once I erase the line. So I was like, I should probably poke the hole for the brad before I continue erasing. So you definitely want to keep your guides intact until you're done with them. So I lined all of those up. I'm going to go ahead and put them together with a piece of washi tape so they're not going to move around on me. And then I just have an old piece of cardboard that I have just lying around the craft room that I use when I want to use my X-Acto knife so I don't cut through everything that's on my desk. I used the tip of the X-Acto knife to poke a hole, and then I'm going to work the brad in. Now I am working on W+9 white cardstock, which is pretty thick. So I did have to work a little bit to get the brad in there. But to me, it was worth the work because I prefer the way this paper, why Copics blend on this paper. So, I mean, you do you, whatever works for you. I felt like it wasn't that big of a deal. Now we're going to go back to the erasing, because once you color over Copics, everything underneath it is permanent. You don't want to be like that. You don't want weird pencil lines. I wanted the background to be a little bit more interesting, so I picked a light blue distress ink. This is tumbled glass, and then I brought it in from just the left-hand side of the card. And you're going to have to do that on each individual circle. So I'm going to put those masks on the second circle, whatever needs to be masked, and then I'm going to lay it back on top of the first circle. And the reason that is because I want the distressing to be the same intensity. I'm specifically using the mini blending tool from Ranger, so I have more control, because I'm trying not to go over the base circle. I didn't want a huge line of demarcation where it was super dark on the outside and light on the inside. So I was very careful to just kind of ink the circle I was working on. Now we're going to go into the Copic coloring. I picked just some of my favorite browns to kind of do a little bit of shading. I didn't go crazy with texture or anything like that. I kept it relatively simple. I just used a couple of colors to get good contrast. Here, once like we're zoomed in for the coloring, you can really see in that bear how the left-hand side, his lines are much bolder than on the right-hand side. Like I said, later on I fixed that. So that might just be something that you want to keep in mind when you're doing this. I filled him completely in with my second lightest color, and then I just did very light feathering around his snout because it would protrude from his body, so what's behind it would be darker. Underneath his arms would be darker, as well as the inside of his legs and his underbelly. Now, I didn't do this with any particular light source in mind. I just knew that those areas, generally anything that's a fold or a quote-unquote crevice, is going to be darker. That's where you're going to want to put your shading. So for the rest of the shading, I really just drew in little teeny tiny lines. The only point I did feather was behind his snout, and it was just to, I guess, kind of spread out some of that color so everything wasn't so light. His entire underbelly ended up getting shaded as I went along. I wasn't really concerned about how that looked. I thought it was fine. And then for the blending out using the lightest color, I didn't color over the entire bear. I just went over the shading to blend it in. For the balloons, I usually do a 3-color blend for balloons. My lightest color, I color the entire balloon in. With my medium color, I draw little half moons, careful to leave a light outside edge. And then I do the same thing with my darker color, but I don't completely cover that medium tone. And then I blend it all back out with my lightest color. I didn't show you all 3 balloons because I colored them the exact same way, but I did show you all 3 color combinations that I used to do them, so that way you would know in case you were like, wow, I really like that, the way that one looked. Here I picked 2 really strong yellows for my background, and I just randomly colored them one or the other. They're just completely solid. But the reason I picked the strong yellows is because I did a blue background and I didn't want my stars to get green on me. So if you used a lighter yellow with the lighter blue, you might risk them getting a little green. I also picked a really light blue that matched to outline everything in. I outlined all of the stars, the whole image, even the sentiment. And this is just something that kind of makes them pop out a little bit. I'm a big fan of doing this. If you're not, skip that part. It's totally fine. I wanted him to have a little bit of ground because I felt like he was kind of just like floating. So I chose 2 really light, cool grays just to give him the illusion of something he's standing on. I'm only showing you one because that's easier for filming purposes, but please remember you have to do this on every single one of those circles. It's supposed to make a complete picture at the end, so you don't want one to be uncolored or different or weird. I outlined that image to fix that line I was telling you about, and then I added some white highlights using a white gel pen. I also added little white dots on the left-hand side of the card and faded them out to the right just for a little bit of interest. I cannot make a single thing that does not have shimmer on it, so I'm adding Clear Wink of Stella to the stars. Again, it's just, to me, it's all about those little details. You've heard me say that tons of times before. To make sure that the brad fit in all of the holes comfortably, I put it through each individual one. So this isn't probably something that you have to do, but I wanted to make sure the mechanics of it were working properly, simply because I wasn't really confident in it. Interactive cards is something that I do very rarely. So once I have all of them in there and I'm happy with the way they are, I'm going to fold that brad down. And then, of course, I'm going to play with it, because why else would you make interactive cards if it wasn't fun? So here's the way it looks like when kind of all mixed up, and that's how I would give it to the recipient. So it's just kind of all mixed up, and then they can play around with it and turn them to put the picture together and then get their birthday wishes sentiment. You want to use super strong adhesive to put this together. I'm using double-sided sticky tape. So you're going to put that down only above the score line. If you put it below, you're going to completely glue your card together. You don't want to do that. So you just above the score line to create a hinge. This set has like such cute sentiments in it for belated birthdays, like did I miss the cake? And that's fantastic for me because I cannot get anything in the mail on time, like 0 things. I also have a hard time showing up anywhere on time. 20 minutes late is 5 early for me. I'm not even kidding. And poor time management. But nonetheless, I did think that the card stood okay with it being round, but I ended up taking off just like a 1/4 of an inch on the bottom of the back side so that it would stand flat and I didn't have to worry about it rolling all over the place. So that is basically the card. I hope that you will maybe give it a try. If you do, please let us know. I would love to see them. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.